They can also simulate different disaster conditions. Through these advantages, VR has the potential to enhance the effectiveness of evacuation training. Where evacuation drills have already been used in other hazards. For example, Megalator conducted VR fire evacuation simulation, and it influenced the real evacuation behavior. Silva et al. Used VR to simulate a hospital fire drill, and Fujimi and Fujimura tested VR flood evacuation drill, and it improved early decision making. Therefore, VR evacuation drills may also be applied to tsunamis. By providing experiment close to real situations, they can complement conventional evacuation drills. Based on this background, the objective of this study is to examine the effectiveness of a VR-based tsunami evacuation training system. Here I'll explain how the VR environment was created. We used the photogrammetry, which constructs 3D models from multiple photos. Using this method, we created a detailed 3D model of the target area. Based on this model, we then built the VR environment used in the evacuation training. This is a video of the actual VR training created with the 3D model. In this training, participants evacuated from a designed start point to the goal point. They performed the training using controller to navigate through the VR environment. I'll explain evaluation method. First, on the day one, the VR training group conducted evacuation training in the VR environment by following the design rules. Second, on-site training conducted evacuation training in the simulated conventional evacuation training. In this group, participants followed the designed evacuation route in the real environment. Third, the non-training condition conducted consisted of participants who didn't receive any prior training. After the day one training, each group performed an on-site evacuation training test and a simulated tsunami scenario. Before the on-site evacuation test, we gave same instructions to all participants. A tsunami is coming, please evacuate. When you reach the evacuation site, please say I'll evacuate here to indicate that the evacuation is complete. In addition, we conducted 2 rounds of experiments in this study. We conducted the study with 25 participants, both male and female, ranging from their teens to their 70s. They were familiar with the area to some extent, but they were not resident. They practiced evacuation from a designed start point to a goal point, and then performed the actual evacuation test from the same start point. Here are the results. The correct answer rate shows the percentage of participants who used the trained route or reaching the design site. Participants who received 1 session of VR training shows a higher correct rate compared with no training. Even with just 1 session, they were able to choose the correct evacuation site. Three session VR training produced results comparable to on-site training. Next, I'll explain the second evaluation. We conducted the study with 15 participants, both male and female, ranging from their teens to their 50s. Since the route was simple, we didn't conduct on-site training in this experiment. Instead, we compared the VR training group with the non-training group. We tested three conditions: one session of training, three session of training, and no training. The VR training was conducted and each participant performed the evacuation individually. The participants included both people who are familiar with the area and those who are not. Here is the result. Triangle indicate participants who are familiar with the area, and inverted triangle indicate those who are not. For example, this is one session of training and unfamiliar with the area. Participants who received one session of training shows a higher correct answer rate than those with no training. Participants unfamiliar with the area with no training had a correct rate of 0%. However, after real training, even those unfamiliar with the area were able to reach the correct evacuation site. Furthermore, participants unfamiliar with the area but trained VR uh, shows similar correct rate. Those familiar with the area but without training. Even participants who didn't know the area were able to perform similarly to those who did after only one session with training. Here is a summary of the result. Example one is experiment one. Right side is experiment two. In both experiments, participants who received even one session of brain training were able to evacuate to the correct side more successfully than those with no training. With three sessions of brain training, evacuation become more reliable, suggesting that repeated training can reinforce evacuation behavior. In addition, three sessions of training produce results comparable to on-site training. Finally, to summarize, we evaluated the effectiveness of VR evacuation training system. Participants unfamiliar with the area and with non-training had a correct rate of 0%. However, after VR training, even those unfamiliar with the area uh, were able to reach the correct evacuation site. With three sessions of training, the results were similar to those of the on-site training